Hello, uh, pardon me. Welcome to part 4 of my look at the top 100 comics of the 20th century. A list that ran in the Comics Journal, number 210, February 1999. That's this right here, this great Seth cover. This right here is the newest issue of my zine Canon, the Canon Annual 2024. Devoted purely to analyzing this issue of the journal. And this thing is available canonzine.bigcartel.com. I'll have a link in the bio. Yeah, if you're at all interested, go check it out. But for right now, we're going to take a look at number 70 through 61. So we'll get started with that. At number 70, Jimbo by Gary Panter. I believe most, if not all, of these Jimbo stories ran in Raw, but could be mistaken about that. There was a little collection put out by Raw back in the 80s. This is a relatively recent release from the New York Review of Comics, collecting Jimbo, Adventures in Paradise. Panter's kind of, I think I referred to him in the Canon issue as unassailable at this point. He's sort of been minted. I've always been a little on the fence about Panter, I'll admit. I'm never really sure whether I'm buying it or not. But I will say it's grown on me as I've gotten older. Definitely worth reading, though. Would highly recommend reading it. At number 69, Madman's Drum by Lind Ward. This is a nice little 2-book set that came out from the Library of America. If you're not familiar with the Library of America, they're kind of dedicated to, I guess, what you'd call a sort of an American literary canon. The books stay in print forever. There haven't been too many things like this they've put out, but this collection of, is it 6? It looks like 6 of Lind Ward's woodcut novels. So, alright, I'll just thumb through so you can get a look. Really beautiful work. And these are told one page at a time, one woodcut illustration at a time. And they basically just work as silent graphic novels, proto-graphic novels. I believe Dover has actually put out a couple of his books. I want to say God's a Man and maybe Madman's Drum. Those are very cheap options, easy to find. But this is a really lovely set if you come across it. Edited by Art Spiegelman. Good stuff. Alright, at number 68, Barnaby. Barnaby is by Crockett Johnson. He's better known to most Americans as the guy who did Harold and the Purple Crayon. But he also did this strip, Barnaby. Has this sort of strange lettering, this mechanical lettering that he did. The conceit is that the child has this fairy godfather that only he can see, this guy here with his little wings. You know, kind of a Calvin and Hobbes-ish type premise, but 30 years before. Anyway, really delightful strip. The final volume of Barnaby is about to come out from Fantagraphics in a few months. They've put out the entire run in 5 hardcover volumes. Designed by Dan Clowes. Really lovely work. Really incredible that they managed to get this whole series, whole strip collected. Number 67, The Passport by Saul Steinberg. One of the, I guess I'd say odder, more odd selections on the list. It really stretches the definition of what you can consider to be comics. There isn't really any kind of narrative in here, so to speak. Not that a narrative is necessary for it to be a comic, but yeah, I would consider this to be one of the more esoteric choices. Steinberg was a long-time cartoonist for the New Yorker, and a well-recognized artist in his lifetime. This book, The Passport, which is from 1954, it's pretty long out of print. When's this edition from? Let's see. Yeah, 1954. So, I'm not sure when the last time this saw a reprinting. There are a couple Steinberg volumes, I think, that are available, but a lot of it's out of print, unfortunately. Maybe we can see a return for this in the near future. At number 66, Zippy by Bill Griffith, starring Zippy the Pinhead, a daily newspaper strip by Bill Griffith, as I said. These are comic pages. Sorry, this is, I think, the only Zippy collection I own. I'm not a fan, personally. I never found the forced wackiness to be funny. The non sequiturs just didn't do it for me. I do think Bill Griffith is a hell of a cartoonist. I really like his underground work. I like the graphic novels he's made as an older man. Zippy's never done a lot for me, though I do have to admit that for a daily strip, exceedingly well rendered, especially, in the last quarter century of the 20th century, where so many strips were so stripped down, not very well drawn. Number 65, Bringing Up Father by George McManus. I love this strip. I love George McManus's art. This beautiful clear line, all the patterns everywhere, the Art Deco, just fantastic stuff. The writing, most of it is pretty sort of set up, gag. I'm not going to claim it's really deep, but God, it's gorgeous looking. He was just supremely talented. This story here is from 1937. See how great all this color stuff is. Yeah, the premise is kind of a working guy who becomes very wealthy, and his wife wants to indulge in the finer things in life and become sophisticated, and he just wants to hang out with his friends, and gamble and drink, and eat and chase skirts. So beautiful stuff, though. Just gorgeous line work. Unfortunately, I think there's 2 collections like this. This is from IDW, Library of American Comics. I think they put out another one this size. Otherwise, there are a couple of older collections, but nothing comprehensive. I don't know that there's much of a demand for it, to be honest. I don't know that anybody wants to sit and read 40 years worth of this strip. But God, it would be nice to have them all in beautiful editions. Really gorgeous work. At number 64, Goodman Beaver by Harvey Kurtzman and Will Elder. These ran in Help magazine. It's kind of short stories with this sort of clear-eyed goof character. This is printed, I think, larger than they were originally printed. This stuff looks great. Will Eisner's cartooning is fantastic. Not the best work of either man, and honestly kind of a strange entry on the list, in my opinion. I can't imagine that it would get much support nowadays. Kurtzman appears 5 times on the list, which I think is excessive, but I think this is his weakest entry on there, personally. Speaking of Kurtzman, he appears again at number 63. Hey Look. These were little one-page strips that ran, I don't know if they ran exclusively in old Marvel comics, but they did run in old Marvel comics. Basically, Stan Lee would let Harvey Kurtzman do whatever he wanted. He just needed page fillers. And Kurtzman did a lot of great gag cartooning, formal experimentation. These are a lot of fun, though. Yeah, just really, really delightful kind of mid-century cartooning here. Good stuff. These appeared originally in color. I would love to have a bigger book that had them in color, but it's also nice to see Kurtzman's pen and ink work. It's really, really fantastic here. Number 62, Little Orphan Annie by Harold Gray. This ran for quite a few years. Of course, I just closed my magazine. Pardon me while I look. Ran from 1924 to 1968. I just chose a volume at random. This is volume 15, 1950 to 1951. I think most people are familiar with Annie through the movie, the musical. But these comics are very, very nice. I don't know that I'd want to sit and read, once again, 40 years of these things in a row. Even though they do have long storylines, and they can be read that way. But yeah, Gray's cartooning, I feel like he kind of became belatedly influential. Chester Brown, Ivan Brunetti, those guys started to go in a direction where their work looked a lot like his in the late 90s, early 2000s. But this stuff just looks surprisingly modern, very slick. Yeah, good stuff. Like I said, I don't know if you need to read all 40 years, but if you could find a nice little collection of this stuff, I would check it out. And at 61, American Splendor by Harvey Pekar and various creators. This collection here has a cover by Crumb, who collaborated quite a bit with Harvey Pekar in the first 10 issues or so. They specify American Splendor number 1 through 10, even though it had gone past that by 1999. I'm not really sure what that was about, and I wonder if maybe just the Crumb collaborations made those earlier issues better. Here's some Crumb right here. Yeah, really good stuff. Here's a Greg Budget, inks by Gary Dumm. Pekar worked with, a wide variety of creators, some name guys, some people you might only ever see in American Splendor. He's very influential. Here's Jerry Shamray, who did a lot of American Splendor work. Very influential autobiographical comics guy. Not a cartoonist himself, because he was just writing these, not drawing them, but very influential. I guess for those who hate autobio comics, a bad influence. I love autobio. personally, but I think a lot of Autobio stuff surpasses American Splendor pretty easily. I'm not really a big fan of Picar's writing, to be honest, though I acknowledge how important he is historically. And the stuff with Crumb is pretty great, though I think Crumb probably deserves most of that credit. I don't know if there are any American Splendor collections in print, which is pretty crazy to me. There definitely should be. Finding the old issues is pretty much, I mean, it's possible, but they're very expensive at this point. And the later issues that, Dark Horse published American Splendor for a while. Maybe for quite a while. So he self-published for a long time, and then I think Dark Horse kind of took over. And he also published some comics through Vertigo as well. A lot of that later stuff is not as good, frankly, but it is easier to find, and you can find some decent stuff. He did some work with Joe Sacco that I'm not a fan of, but anything you find by Joe Sacco is worth finding. But yeah, Picar leaves me a little bit cold, I'll admit. All right, that's it for this video. Once again, if you're at all interested in this list, check out Canon, canonzine.bigcartel.com. If you think I'm talking a lot about this stuff now, wait till you open these pages. All right, thanks.